independent journalist Nate Friedman, who says he's on a mission to expose left-wing protesters. He's taken it upon himself to attend some of these protests for liberal causes and speak with those in attendance.
America, what I'm about to show you is going to completely change how you view these so-called grassroots protests happening at ICE facilities across the country. We've got breaking news out of Chicago where federal investigators are now looking into whether protesters disrupting ICE operations were actually paid aggregators funded by outside organizations. But that's just the beginning of the story, because we also got arrests made during these protests near Chicago ICE facility, and the ICE Block app mysteriously disappeared from app stores right as a new program enables police departments nationwide to work directly with ICE. This isn't about immigration policy anymore. This is about organized disruption of federal law enforcement operations, and the money trail is starting to expose exactly who's behind these coordinated attacks on ICE facilities. When you see the same tactics, the same signs, the same chants, the same level of organization across multiple cities, that's not organic community activism. That's professional agitation.
You're acting like a reporter with a...
I am a reporter.
Yeah, okay.
You want to see my press credentials?
I want you to talk.
Hey, here's my press credentials.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so who are you with?
Right now I'm representing myself, and I'm representing the folks at Rise and Resist who have been trained
so Rise
to
and
be
Resist.
marshals
How much do they pay you to wear this vest?
Absolutely nothing.
Really?
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story perfectly illustrates how outside aggregators are exploiting legitimate community concerns to create chaos and obstruct federal law enforcement. Let's break down exactly what's happening and who's really behind these protests. Let's start with the most important development in this story. Federal investigators are looking into whether protesters disrupting ICE operations in Chicago were actually paid by outside organizations. This isn't a conspiracy theory anymore. This is an active federal investigation into organized obstruction of law enforcement.
Is she just someone who has a lot of free time, or you believe that there's some incentive behind her?
Yeah, there's some incentive, and she's a manager at Lincoln Center Theater, and that's a beautiful theater. That's just a little less beautiful knowing that.
Here's what investigators are finding: the level of coordination, the professional quality signs and the materials, the organized transportation of protesters, and the sophisticated communication networks all point to significant financial backing that goes far beyond local community organizing. When you see identical tactics being used simultaneously in multiple cities, when you see professional grade equipment and materials, when you see coordinated media strategies, that's not organic community activism. That is professional political operation with serious funding behind it.
But I like how they say that it's nonviolent when they carry signs saying 8647 and by any means necessary. There's obvious violent rhetoric behind it.
The investigation is focusing on financial transactions, communication patterns, and the logistics on how these protesters are organized and funded.
The financial backing of these groups, particularly Antifa, is certainly something the administration is looking into aggressively. And the federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting that into gear. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have our intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature.
Federal authorities want to know who's paying for the transportation, the materials, the coordination, and the sustained presence at ICE facilities.
Here's her outside Trump Tower saying TikTok time's up. Here's her saying ban guns, not drag. Amazing. This is her telling us that lies have consequences. She is also very passionate about abortion. Even in the video right now, she's just wearing a hat that says abortion on it. The company that is paying people like Karen for a second job as a professional protester.
But here's what really matters. If these protesters are being funded by outside organizations specifically to obstruct federal law enforcement operations, that's not protected speech. That's organized obstruction of justice, and it's a federal crime. Now let's talk about what's been happening at the Chicago ICE facility, because this situation has escalated far beyond peaceful protests into active obstruction of federal operations.
Border Patrol Commander at Large Gregory Bovino leading the arrest outside the facility on Friday. DHS says that 13 Quote, rioters were arrested during the standoff, with Illinois State Police joining federal law enforcement officers in trying to keep protesters back.
Multiple arrests have been made as protesters attempt to physically block federal agents from conducting their duties. This isn't peaceful protest. This is active interference with federal law enforcement operations, and it's exactly what these outside aggregators want to achieve. The arrests include charges of obstruction of federal operations, interference with law enforcement, and in some cases, assault on federal officers. These aren't people exercising their First Amendment rights. These are people actively breaking federal law to obstruct immigration enforcement. What's particularly concerning is the level of organization and coordination involved in these obstruction efforts. Protesters are using sophisticated tactics to maximize disruption while trying to avoid the most serious criminal charges. But here's what these protesters and their handlers don't seem to understand. Obstructing federal law enforcement operations is a serious federal crime, regardless of your political motivation. When you physically prevent ICE agents from doing their job, you're not a civil rights activist. You are a criminal.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem posting on X saying, quote, members of our brave law enforcement were attacked, rammed, and boxed in by 10 vehicles, including an attacker with a semi-automatic weapon, adding that she is deploying more special operations to control the scene. The FBI is investigating.
This is exactly why professional aggregators are so dangerous. They come into communities, escalate tension, create dangerous situations, then leave local residents to deal with the consequences. Now let's talk about something that's been flying under the radar, but it's equally important. The mysterious disappearance of the ICE Block app on major app stores, right as federal immigration enforcement is ramping up.
DOJ officials, at the direction of Attorney General Pam Bondi, asked Apple to take down ICE Block. It's a move that comes as Trump administration officials have claimed the tool, which allows users to anonymously report ICE agents' presence, puts agents in danger and helps shield illegal immigrants.
The ICE Block app, which I covered about a month ago, was designed to help people avoid immigration enforcement by providing real-time information about ICE operations. But here's what's really interesting. The app's removal from the app stores coincides perfectly with federal investigations into paid protesters and coordinated obstruction efforts. This is not a coincidence. More than likely, the same organizations funding physical obstruction of ICE operations were also supporting digital tools designed to help people evade federal law enforcement. The app removal suggests that federal investigators are also looking into the entire ecosystem of the obstruction efforts.
Again, for those unfamiliar, this app is called ICE Block, and Apple has now dropped it from their app store after the Department of Justice raised concerns with Apple that the app was putting law enforcement officers at risk.
The timing is particularly suspicious, just as federal authorities are investigating coordinated efforts to obstruct immigration enforcement. The digital tools supporting these efforts mysteriously disappear. That, to me, suggests the federal pressure and possible legal action against the organizations behind these obstruction efforts. While the obstruction efforts are being shut down, there's also major news about a new program that enables police officers nationwide to work directly with ICE. This represents a complete reversal of the sanctuary policies that have been protecting criminal aliens for years.
In most states outside Connecticut, state and local cooperation with the feds does happen to some degree through ICE's 287G enforcement program.
This program is exactly what we need. Instead of sanctuary policies that protect criminal aliens, we now have coordination between local and federal law enforcement to ensure that the people who are here illegally face consequences for their actions.
As of September 22nd, nationwide, there are 1,001 participating law enforcement agencies that can help ICE identify and process undocumented people with criminal charges, serve and execute administrative warrants, and join ICE-led task forces.
The program enables local police to share information with ICE, coordinate operations, and ensure that criminal aliens are properly processed through the immigration system instead of being released back into American communities. This is what real law enforcement cooperation looks like. Instead of local governments obstructing federal immigration enforcement, we now have coordination and information sharing that makes both local communities and the country safer.
In a statement, ICE said the 287G program is a force multiplier and also prevents dangerous criminals from being released back onto the streets, which means ICE officers don't have to arrest them at large in the community.
The contrast couldn't be clearer. While outside aggregators are funding protests to obstruct immigration enforcement, local police departments are signing up to cooperate with ICE ICE because they understand that immigration enforcement makes communities safer. When you step back and look at all of these developments together, a clear picture emerges of coordinated attacks on immigration enforcement that involves paid protesters, digital obstruction tools, and organized efforts to prevent federal agents from actually doing their jobs.
Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state. The same President Trump did in Los Angeles, the same he did in Washington, D.C., the same we're doing in other cities. We're there to make the city safer. And you think Governor Pritzker and the Mayor Johnson, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. Remove public safety threats from the public. We're there to do that. And we're not going to stop doing it. They can stand aside and watch us do it, but we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow.
The paid protester investigation, the ICE Block app removal, the arrests at ICE facilities, and the violence that resulted in these escalation tactics all point to the same conclusion. This is not grassroots community activism. This is professional political warfare designed to obstruct federal law enforcement. The organizations funding these efforts don't care about the communities that they operate in. They don't care about the people who get hurt when their tactics escalate to violence. They don't care about local residents who have to live with the consequences of their actions. What they care about is creating chaos, obstructing federal law enforcement, and preventing the Trump administration from enforcing immigration laws that the American people voted for in November. But here's the good news. Federal authorities are taking this seriously. The paid protester investigation, the criminal charges against obstructors, the removal of digital tools designed to evade law enforcement, and the new police ICE cooperation program all show that the Trump administration is serious about enforcing immigration laws despite organized opposition. America, what we're seeing in Chicago and across the country is not grassroots community activism. It's professional political warfare designed to obstruct federal law enforcement and prevent the enforcement of immigration laws that the American people voted for. The paid protester investigation is exposing the financial networks behind these obstruction efforts. The arrests at ICE facilities are showing that there are real consequences for obstructing federal law enforcement. The removal of the ICE Block app shows that the digital obstruction tools won't be tolerated, and the new police ICE cooperation program demonstrates that local law enforcement is ready to work with federal authorities to make their communities safer. This is what happens when you have federal leadership that's serious about enforcing the law and protecting American communities. The professional aggregators can fund all the protests that they want, but they can't stop federal agents from doing their job. The message is clear. If you want to protest peacefully, that's your right. But if you're being paid by outside organizations to obstruct federal law enforcement, if you're using digital tools to help evade immigration enforcement, if you're physically blocking federal agents from doing their job, there will be consequences. The American people voted for immigration enforcement, and that's exactly what they're going to get, regardless how much money outside aggregators spend to trying to stop it. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.